One day, a man was digging into the ground, and out of nowhere, he hit something, a massive bone. At first, he thought it was from some giant human or something, but he had no idea what he just found was going to uncover one of the biggest creatures to ever walk this earth. They're called dinosaur. Alright, so let's go way back, before anyone even knew what a dinosaur was. Back in the 1600s, there was this guy named Robert Plot, a smart scientist, who always curious. One day, he finds this massive bone, way too big to be human. But here's the thing, nobody back then knew about dinosaurs, not even a word for it. So Robert looks at the bone and goes, maybe this came from a giant human that used to live on Earth. That was his honest guess. A giant human. Sounds wild now, but that was normal thinking back then. They believed in giant warriors, creatures from legendary stories, all that stuff. So his idea, it made sense at the time. But in reality, that bone wasn't human, not even close. What he really found was the first dinosaur fossil ever recorded in history, but he didn't know it. Nobody did. So the bone? It just sat there. No name, no meaning, just forgotten. And for the next 100 years, people kept finding strange bones underground. But every time, they either abandon it or forget about it. So now we're in the 1700s. And guess what? More people keep digging, and more weird bones start showing up. But the same thing keeps happening. Nobody knows what they're looking at. Some say the bones belong to dragons. Others say they're just deformed elephants. And one guy, dead serious, thought it was just a really big horse. Yeah, a horse. Why? Because back then, there were no books, no museums, no scientists saying, hey, this might be something ancient. People were just guessing, making stuff up, and trying to fit these giant bones into stories they already believed. And because they didn't understand fossils, they thought these things were brand new, like the animal had just died a few years ago. Nobody thought they were millions of years old. Nobody thought they were from another world, a world before humans even existed. So all these bones, they got tossed aside, locked in churches, buried again. Some even got thrown in rivers like trash. It's crazy to think about it. They were holding pieces of a forgotten world, and they didn't even know it. Time moves on. Now we're in the early 1800s. A man named Gideon Mantell is out walking with his wife in Sussex, England. They're just chillin', doing their thing, when she spots this weird-looking tooth in the dirt. She picks it up. It's sharp, curved, way different than any normal animal tooth. Gideon takes a look at it and goes, wait, this ain't from a cow. This ain't from a horse. This thing looks like it belonged to a huge lizard. And right there, that's when things started to shift. He didn't call it a dinosaur, because again, the word didn't exist yet. But he knew it was something ancient, something massive. He finds more bones, a few teeth. He puts the pieces together, little by little. Gideon calls this creature Iguanodon, because the tooth looked kind of like a modern iguana, but way bigger. Now remember, people back then, they thought the Earth was only a few thousand years old. So when he said, yo, I think these bones are from a creature that lived millions of years ago, people laughed at him and called him crazy. But Gideon didn't stop. He was one of the first humans to ever say, these bones belong to creatures from another time. He didn't have all the answers, but he was finally asking the right questions. All right now, we got bones, we got teeth, we got people guessing, but nobody really knows what to call these things yet. That is, until 1842. A man named Richard Owen steps into the picture. He's a British scientist, a little different than the others. See, Owen wasn't just collecting bones. He was trying to connect the dots between all these weird fossils people had been finding, like the iguanodon that Mantell found, or the megalosaurus from earlier. Owen looks at the patterns, the way the bones are shaped, the way they stand, the size, the structure, and he says something that changed everything. Yo, these things didn't just come from different animals, they're all part of the same family, a whole new group of creatures. So he gives them a name, Dinosauria, from ancient Greek. Dinos means terrible or mighty, and sauros means lizard, terrible lizards. Boom, that's where the word dinosaur comes from. But here's the thing, even though he gave them the name, he still didn't fully understand how big this discovery really was. He thought they were big, slow, lizard-like monsters, like dragons that just walked around dragging their tails. Nobody knew yet how many kinds existed, how long they lived, or that they ruled the earth for over 160 million years. All they had was a name, but that name was the beginning of everything. Because once people heard it, once museums started showing these bones to the public, the world was never the same again. So now the word's out, dinosaurs. People hear it, and it just hits different. It sounds powerful, mysterious, ancient. But at this point, most folks still don't really get it. They never seen a full skeleton. They never seen how massive these creatures really were. All they knew was big bones, strange names, and a whole lot of questions. But But then came the game changer: public displays. Museums started putting dinosaur bones out where anyone could see them, and let me tell you, it blew people's minds. Like in 1854, there was this huge event in London. The Crystal Palace Park opened these life-size dinosaur statues based on the fossils. People walked around them, took photos, pointed, and stared. And for the first time ever, dinosaurs felt real. Not just bones in the dirt, not just drawings in a science book, but actual giants that once walked the earth. And just like that, dinosaurs became a global obsession. Books started dropping, and kids were learning their names. Scientists all over the world started looking for bones. The race had officially started, and the deeper they dug, the crazier the discoveries got. But little did they know, the biggest dinosaur drama? It hadn't even started yet, because up next, two men were about to turn the dinosaur world into a full-on battlefield. So picture this. It's the late 1800s. Dinosaurs are the hottest thing in science. Every museum wants them. Every country wants them. And two guys, they're about to go to war over them. Their names? Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope. Yeah, weird names, but trust me, they had even weirder beef. At first, they were cool. Both smart, both obsessed with fossils, both respected in the science world. But then, jealousy kicked in. Cope made a mistake. He put the head of a fossil on the wrong end of a skeleton. Embarrassing, right? Marsh saw it and roasted him publicly. From that moment on, it was on site. This wasn't just science anymore. This was personal. These two dudes started spying on each other, stealing fossils, paying diggers to lie, sabotaging dig sites, even smashing bones, just so the other guy wouldn't get them. It got so crazy, they weren't even talking about the dinosaurs anymore. They were just trying to outdo each other. But here's the twist. Even though they were fighting dirty, they also ended up discovering over 130 new species of dinosaurs. Yup, 130 plus. Their war actually helped build the entire foundation of what we know about dinosaurs today. Wild, right? Two grown men acting like kids, burning money, breaking bones, just to see who could leave a bigger mark on history. And they did. But they also paid the price. By the time it was over, both of them were broke. Their reputations damaged, and their friendship long gone. Still, what they left behind would change science forever. So after all the drama between Marsh and Cope, things finally started to calm down. Scientists all around the world had one goal now: find more dinosaurs, understand them, and tell their story. And slowly, piece by piece, the image of dinosaurs we know today started to come together. They weren't just giant lizards. Some had feathers, some were fast, some were small, some were just straight-up monsters. And the people digging them up, they were no longer seen as weird scientists. They were seen like treasure hunters, rock stars of science. And now museums were going crazy. New skeletons were being displayed every year. Kids were lining up just to see a T-Rex skull. And for the first time ever, dinosaurs weren't just science. They were mainstream. Movies, toys, books, video games, the whole world got obsessed. But behind the scenes, the digging never stopped. Because every new bone raised new questions. Why did they disappear? How did they live? Were they really that big? And wait, were some of them birds now? Yeah, things were changing fast, from simple bones in the dirt to a global mystery with millions of fans. Dinosaurs were no longer lost. They became legends. That's why dinosaurs aren't just some old bones locked in a museum. They tell us about the world, how it used to be, how it changed, and maybe even how it could change again. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with me to the end. Just don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.